Don't just try and like scale everything, because that doesn't work. And it's just ineffective because you're scaling the things that don't work as well as the things that did work well.
So you gave away a few of the cheat codes on scaling, but Erin, give me some of your cheat codes on scaling content creation. It's not easy.
Process. So when you're super early on and you have a one-person team, you're probably pretty scrappy. Even if you're, creating content without an actual content person, you're probably doing your best to just get what you can out the door. So for me, the first thing that I came in to do was adding some process. So something as simple as a process for how people can get ideas to you. How can you automate that, right? So rather than people stopping you in the hallway and saying, hey, I got this great idea, you can say, okay, cool, that's a great idea. Here's the form, fill out this form. And you can communicate to people, making it as easy as possible. Of course, you don't want to have some crazy form that has like 20 fields. They're not going to want to do it. Should be as simple as your name's already there. You don't need to enter your name or your email address. It's automated. They just get to drop their idea in one box and press submit, and it can go right to your project management software. So we use Asana. I have a board that's content ideas. So whenever someone has an idea, it goes right to the ideas board. And then when it comes time for a campaign, I can look in there and see if any of the ideas would be a fit for the campaign that we're doing. I have a content request process in a form. It's not good for everything. Some things are too complex to go through a form, but it's a good catch-all for a lot of requests that people need. And then we also have some meetings that can help you scale certain things. So for example, we have biweekly brainstorm meeting, and we're brainstorming specifically for specific needs. So it's not like, oh, we're doing this, this event, let's brainstorm content. It's kind of like, okay, let's brainstorm content that we're going to send to people who register for the event before the event to make sure they get excited and they want to make sure they come to the event, because attendance is important, right? So just giving people guardrails, because I'm sure you've all heard that expression, guardrails, free creativity, and having process so that you can get everybody's ideas. And then the last thing I'll have to say, I can't do this without saying this, being that I come from a place of behavioral science and people data. Some people love to brainstorm out loud. They're very comfortable sharing ideas on the fly. Some people are not. They're not comfortable interrupting. They're not the loudest voice in the room, but they all have great ideas. They just might not be able to vocalize them as fast as others. So if you are going to do this brainstorm meeting as part of scaling your content efforts, I would say follow a process that allows people to have some heads down time to think. So you could send the topic in advance so that they can come prepared with their ideas, or you could use like a Miro activity if you're remote, pop on Zoom, say, okay, I'm going to set the timer for 3 minutes, go heads down, jot down your ideas, then we're going to share. And that's just making sure that you're getting everyone's ideas equally, not just the loudest voice in the room.
I love that.
Let me, can I jump on that content idea intake form for a second?
Let's do it.
In talking to like marketers and content creators, like they very quickly, or maybe this has been established when they got there, is like content is like an order taking machine, is like, hey, we have this thing, go do it. Hey, we have this idea, go do it. And if you want to shift that dynamic, that form is a great place to do it, because it just sets a boundary of like, don't come holler at my desk, don't blow me up on Slack and like expect me to get this done. But the other thing too is try to get your internal domain experts to buy into it, right? Some of our best ideas, like some of our all-time greatest content, came from a salesperson, sales leader coming up to me or filling out the form with this very half-baked idea, but it was brilliant, right? It just needed to be kind of worked. So I would say like it might seem like a very small thing, and it actually is. It was one of the first things I built internally, was this intake form, but highly recommend it. It helps on all fronts.
Yeah, I think that's something that I struggle with too, because you don't want to open it up to too many different cooks in the kitchen, but you also do want to get good ideas that you might not already be thinking of that are still helpful. Camille, give away some of your cheat codes of what you're doing right now in terms of scaling content at Do It.
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas around this, so let me try and like parse them out. But yeah, I think it can be dangerous when you have a Slack channel in like feeling like you need to do all of those things, right? So I think like Erin and Devin said, of like setting those boundaries, of having, and we do have like an intake form for things that are like need to be done. But then, yeah, I like the idea of having that also be like the idea board too, of and just having it be organized that way. So there's that. But the first thing that came to mind actually was I had Alina Benny from Nextiva on my podcast recently. And when I was asking her about scaling content, because they've done a great job of it, she was saying, she's like, don't worry about like scaling content. As soon as you start being like, how can we scale this? Like, how can we do more and more? She's like, you can get into like bad habits and like patterns. And I've like seen that. And so I think before you scale, like have something worth scaling. Like, I think that's like the best rule.
That's amazing.
Right. Is create something that like that people love and that people are coming back to. And once you have like some of those things, it just goes back to like, once you have some data, like then you can scale because you know what to scale and you have feedback. And so that's like the number one thing that I would say, and that I've like learned and like relearned a bunch of times, is like do the unscalable things when you're at like I am, like a Series B type company or like an early stage startup. Do those things first. And then look at the data and then scale what's working, right? But don't just try and like scale everything, because that doesn't work. And it's just ineffective because you're scaling the things that don't work as well as the things that did work well. So figuring that out. And then I think the other sort of cheat code is just repurposing, right? So one thing that I did like when I first came in and had to like start creating content but didn't have the whole context was we kind of had a repository of podcast episodes that our sales leaders had been on, or that just leadership has been on. So it was going through that content, right? And like turning it into a post, like turning it into something else. Like the content was already there. It was like, I'd mentioned those like Gong calls of like content was there, pulled like some of that content for our content. And so just putting it in a different context of like, it's there, give leadership, like give your subject matter experts like an easy way to get that content out. And I think for a lot of people it's speaking, right? Like rather than writing. For some people it is writing. So I think that intake form is helpful too. But look through the content that you already have and see how you can repurpose it and like redistribute it in a different way. I think that's like another early stage like cheat code that's worked well for me. You can do that on your personal content as well. And then it's like I said before, it's like the scaling up, not scaling out. So I think like the thing that we all want to do is like, okay, like now I need to be on, now I need to do SEO. Like now I need to be like on search. Like now I need to be on this other social channel, like TikTok. Why are we not on there? And so I think just doubling down like on what's working and picking like one or two other channels of like, here's where we have data and like we think that we can win here. And just not trying to do too much, but just going deeper in one or two things.